Hello and welcome to the basement. So my wife keeps telling me lately that her iPhone keeps running out of battery before the day's over, and is becoming a real frustration for her. She has to keep plugging it in halfway through the day just to make sure it lasts through the end of the day. So what I thought I might do is, instead of spending about $1,500 on a new iPhone, why don't we just put a new battery in her existing iPhone? And personally, I think this actually makes a lot of sense. You could spend around $1,500 or a lot more on a new iPhone, but the features that come with those new iPhones, she doesn't really want those features or have any need for those features. She's quite happy with the phone she has. It saves us having to migrate all the data over. And really, it's just a good solution. We've already got the cases and everything for this phone. So I think putting a new battery in just makes the best sense. So this is the phone. It's an iPhone 7 Plus, and like I say, she's had it for a while, but it still does everything it needs to do. It's just running out of battery a bit too soon. So what I've done is, at iFixit, you can get these battery kits. They come with all the stuff you need. They even come with tools and everything. They're pretty reasonably priced, and if you go with a quality outfit like iFixit, then you know you're going to get a good battery, and that the tools and all the little screwdrivers are going to fit correctly. And you get all the accessories you need. Plus the iFixit website, of course, has all the excellent instructions telling you how to get this done. Now, I'm not affiliated with them at all, but they are a great place to get these sort of resources for fixing up anything like an iPhone or other small electronics. So here's the phone out of its case, switched off. Everything's backed up. That's a really important thing to do, is to back up your information before you do anything like this. There is a chance that this phone will never work again. Fingers crossed that won't be the case here. Otherwise, we will be spending $1,500+ on a new iPhone. Maybe that's my wife's secret plan, is to get me to break her iPhone so we buy her a new one. But I don't think so. I think we're going to get this one working. If you follow the iFixit instructions, it's pretty straightforward. Speaking of iFixit instructions, let's have a look what actually comes in the box when you order the kit to replace the battery. So we have the repair part and the tools that come with it as well. And this should be a battery. Great, so what we have here is, this is the battery. As you can see, there's a new battery, iFixit branded. And the other thing we have here inside the same box is this blue thing, and this is adhesive for the screen. I've done one of these before on my own iPhone 7, just normal size, and this was very difficult to put on, so we'll have another go at it. But if I stuff it up, well, it's just, that is what it is. You can actually put the phone together without this adhesive. It just means the phone's not as weatherproof or dustproof as it is designed to be. Okay, before we pull this apart, we're just going to have a look at the existing battery, and under battery health, so you can see that the maximum capacity is down to 84%. So that's going to make a big difference to this phone once we put a new battery in, and we'll check this later once we've got the new battery in there and it's all good to go. So first things first, we need to undo the screws on the bottom of the iPhone, and you can see them there. They are impossibly tiny little screws, but thankfully we've got the right bit in the iFixit kit, so we'll be able to get them done, no worries at all. You can see just how small those screws are. They're easy to lose, so put them in a safe place and you'll have them at the end of the job. Now this comes the nerve-wracking part, is we need to lift this screen. So the suction cap comes in handy for this. Sometimes you can heat the screen. I do have a hot air gun here, but I have found in the past that it didn't seem to make much difference. What I found is just having constant pressure, you can finally get something underneath one of these corners and start to work it up and get the screen up that way. So that's where it's handy to have these picks and other things you can wedge under there. So without further ado, let's try not to break the screen of my wife's phone and get it off. Alright, well, it's not sticking for some reason. I'll try cleaning the glass. Nope. Feels like the rubber might actually be a bit stiff on that for it to work. Thankfully I've got another one. Nope, So I've got this one here as well, which was actually out of a really cheap fix-it set. So I'm going to try this one. It seems to stick a lot better. It's not as fancy as the iFixit one, but they don't seem to be sticking, so what can you do? So this part's pretty difficult. I'm going to start on a corner, stick it down, apply pressure. Great, we're underneath. Like I say, it is slightly nerve-wracking. You don't want to break this glass because then you'll be doing a screen replacement, which you can see here on my channel. But once we get the tip of this tool underneath, we can just start running it around and just dislodging that glue. And you do want to be careful when you do this not to go too far underneath, because there's sort of connectors and things which you can damage if you poke something right underneath as you're trying to wedge the screen off. You just want to take your time. Don't be in a hurry, because that's when things break. So you can see under the screen of the top of the phone, it's got these little lips here which have to slide out from underneath the case. So you have to make sure that you slide it down before you can lift it up. Right, there we have it. Screen off. It's not damaged, thankfully. It is nerve-wracking, I'm not going to lie. It's very easy to do irreparable damage to your screen, and then you'll be putting a new screen on the machine as well as a new battery. But if you're happy to take that risk, then you can really save yourself a lot of cash by doing it this way. Great, we're on the phone. Let's see what we do next. Okay, so I'm leaning the display against this iFixit box. That's a good way of stopping it from putting too much strain on these cables down here. You don't want these to break. Now, you can leave the display on to replace the battery, but I have found if you want to replace the adhesive around the screen, you'll need the display gone. Otherwise, you can't actually place the adhesive along the back here. These display ribbon cables are in the way. So we're going to take the display off, and to do that, we're going to take this bracket off first. So 4 screws off this, and we'll take this bracket off. Oh, interesting. So this was stuck down to this connector here. This connector is our battery connector, and I haven't experienced that being stuck before. So as I pulled it up, it's lifted up this connector here, which we're going to have to disconnect anyway, but it's just something to be aware of. You don't really want the battery connector jumping up and down and connecting to the wrong thing at the wrong time, because it could cause a short or do some other damage to the circuit board here. So we'll lift that out now. Now we'll do the display adapter, which is this one here. Bend that out of the way because we don't need that anymore. So there we go, the first of the display connectors, and then there's a second one underneath, which we need to get as well. Great, got them. Okay, next step, we've got a bracket near the top of the phone here. And we have another connector underneath the bracket that we want to pop off. Done. So that means our screen is free. There's still a little bit of glue holding it on, but we can just cut that, pull it away. Great, and there we have it. One screen released from its housing. So we'll put that aside in a nice safe place to stop it getting damaged or broken. Okay, the next thing we're going to remove is this barometric vent, which is right here. And we want to just separate the adhesive, so we push it away. Now we're going to remove this Taptic engine. So that's the connector for it right here. We'll take that off first. And then it's got 3 screws holding it in. Whoops, drop that screw down there. We'll get that in a minute. Let's get the Taptic engine out and rescue our little errant screw. Got him. Okay, we're almost there. Now this is the fun part. There's 3 adhesive strips that are holding the battery in place, and the correct way to remove them is just to pull one end really hard until it comes out from underneath the battery. It's a nightmare if they break underneath. Hopefully that won't happen to us. We'll just grab this end here and we'll pull as gently but firmly as we can, and it should remove the adhesive from underneath the battery. Okay, the adhesive strips have been removed, so our battery should be loose, and there it is. So always dispose of your battery properly, and that includes putting some sort of tape or cover over these terminals so that they can't short out while it's being recycled and cause a fire. Okay, while our phone is sitting here with no battery and no display, I'm going to go around the edge and I'm just going to remove all of the old adhesive. Okay, that's all the adhesive removed from around the edge of the phone and also from the screen. So time has come to put in our new battery. Make sure, of course, if you've used any IPA that it's all cleaned out from the phone or the new adhesive won't stick down. We have a piece of protective plastic that's covering the adhesive, but before I stick it to the phone, I'm going to make sure that our plug is going to line up in here. So we're going to connect it temporarily, and that's going to show us exactly where the battery needs to sit inside this cavity. Right, so the battery needs to sit right there. Great. Slightly nerve-wracking because you don't want to have to be pulling that battery off again once it's stuck down. But that looks pretty good to me. The plug's in, and we still have room for our Taptic engine and the other associated stuff down the bottom here. Looking good. So the Taptic engine goes back in. Okay, this parametric pressure thing has 2 different size screws, a long one and a short one, and the long one goes towards the corner. So next we have to put our adhesive on. We need to do that before we connect our ribbon cables. So this is our adhesive. Now previously when I've replaced a battery on an iPhone, I have found this step to be actually the hardest step of the whole thing, is getting this adhesive in exactly the right spot. If you start in slightly the wrong spot, by the time you get to the end you can't go back and change it, and so you need to get it right from the get-go, and that's what makes it quite difficult. So first of all we need to work out which way around it goes so we don't put it on backwards, and I think that's it there. That means it lines up with all the little cutouts. We peel off one side, and then we want to lay this down in the right spot. Okay, that'll do. Now I'll just go around and press it down so it doesn't lift up as we peel off the second piece of backing plastic. Can be a good idea when you're doing this sort of job to double check before you put the screen back on, is to turn it on and just check everything's working correctly, because if it's not, you don't want to be damaging all this adhesive again trying to get that screen back off. So it is a good idea just to double check things as you go. So there's one last piece of adhesive here. We're going to leave that on as we're working on it, and we're going to take that off just before we stick the screen down. So the next thing we're going to do is put our screen back on. We're going to put those ribbon cables in and put our brackets down, holding them down. Great. Okay, so everything's back together. Let's just sit the screen here. Let's power it on. And we're going to double check our screen's working before we screw it all back down. Alright, that's a good sign. We've got the Apple logo. Okay, everything seems to be working. The touch control is working in all parts of the screen, and there's no lines or any artifacts or anything wrong that I can see on the screen, so it all looks to be going well. I think we're ready to glue the screen down and call this job done. Let's just have a quick look at our battery health. Maximum capacity 100%, so that's what we want to see. Let's get this phone back together and my wife will be very happy with this. Okay, the adhesive is exposed. We are ready to lay the screen down. Now remember, we have some little catches along the top of the screen that need to slide underneath the case here. So we have to sort of go in and slide under as it goes down. Oh, my adhesive is slightly loose there. Let's just back up before we stick it down. Come on. This part is quite tricky. Right, the top's stuck down already. My adhesive was just sticking out slightly at this end, but I think if we just tuck it in as it goes down, we'll be okay. Perfect. Let's put in the final 2 screws and this job is done. Great, I think we are done. It's all back together. It's looking like a normal phone again. The screen's working, the battery's at 100%. I'll put it back in its case and we'll turn it on and just double check everything's good to go, but I reckon this one is a win. So we got it all back together and it's working fine. So you can see there the touchscreen's working, the battery health is at 100%, so we're going to get another couple of years out of this phone yet. So we won't be buying a new phone just yet. This one's going to last the distance. A couple of points I'd like to make with the iFixit kit. It comes with these suction caps. I actually have 2 of these. Neither of them would get any suction on the glass screen. I have this one from a cheap Chinese kit I got, and that works way better. So it's up to you. Your mileage might vary. There might be something wrong with these iFixit ones. The rubber seems very stiff, so that might be why they're not actually sucking onto the glass very well. But otherwise, of course, the iFixit kit is the way to go. You get all the instructions and you know it's good quality batteries and components that they use in their kits. So one last thing I'd like to mention, if you are planning on doing a battery replacement on your iPhone, is that you need to recalibrate the new battery. So what that means is you need to let the phone die completely, let the battery go right down to 0 so the phone shuts off, then plug it in and let it charge without interruption for at least 2 hours past its full charge, and then use the phone again until it turns itself off. And those cycles will calibrate the battery, letting the phone know how much charge it can put in the battery and how much it can draw out, giving you maximum battery life. Well, that's everything from me today. Job well done. You've been in the basement. See you next time.